Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and mysterious stories. This story, written by Bitch Shortage. What do you do when a man stares at you through a window at night? This was in 2004 when I was 20 and living in a small 2-level apartment on the main floor of a building. Out front, there were 3 stairs, then a deck, then 3 more stairs to the front door, and another little narrow deck that ran the length of the front of my apartment, which besides a door, was all windows. The main floor was a tiny kitchen/living room, and a door to the hallway for laundry or parking access, all of which is totally visible from the windows. It was fall in Western Canada during daylight savings, pitch black early and surprisingly warm for the season. I had all my windows open and hadn't closed the blinds to get a breeze in, and was talking on the phone to my sister. I had my back to the windows, and when I turned around, I thought I saw something weird at the window. It was really bright inside, so I turned the main light off and saw a man pressed against the window, staring at me. I screamed and told my sister a man was on my deck looking at me. He seemed to take off into the darkness. I turned off all lights inside, put the outside ones on, and was babbling to my sister like, "Holy shit, a peeping Tom, I can't believe it." And then he just walks back up to the deck. I screamed again, "He's back! I have to call 911. I hung up and did, while his face was pressed against the window and it was still open. Windows were floor to ceiling, with screened, crank-open bottom sections that I had opened to the max and could for sure accommodate a determined person crawling in. He could hear me and the 911 call, but didn't move. I had crouched down in the dark room, and the main light was off, so he couldn't see me, but I had the lights on, besides the door to the hallway and on the stairs to the bedroom. I didn't want to move and let him know where I was. I should have run into the hall and banged on a neighbor's door, but I was in shock, and after all, the cops are coming from a station 10 blocks away. They'll get here soon, right? 911 operator, we can't find your address. I'm directly behind the rec center at X and Y, a corner unit unmistakable area landmark, and the only apartment building there. The man at the window starts banging on the glass. I was whispering, but assumed he heard me give panic directions repeatedly, and we both can't hear sirens. I felt like this would go on forever when he finally just ran off. Couldn't see far, and there were plenty of places to crouch and hide, so I was not at all sure. I peek out to see a police car, so I told the operator they're here, and then the car starts to drive away, and the operator told me to go outside and flag them down. I don't know why I actually did, because I was scared out of my mind, but when I did, they rolled down their window. "Ma'am? Do you need help?" "Oh, you're looking for me, I think. I called 911. "We're just driving by, but what's the problem, ma'am?" They never found the man that terrified me and made me feel so unsafe that I moved, but it was truly the cops not being able to find the only apartment behind a notable building that completely shook me. But the true frightening end note is when I moved out, they tried to charge me because the downstairs screens are shredded from your cats. The screens were pristine the day the creeper showed up, and that was the last time I opened the downstairs windows or blinds, or used the front door. The property manager laughed and mocked me, called BS when I said someone cut them, until I showed her the police report. She lived there too, so suddenly, it was not so funny. This story, written by Lova33, a truly traumatic night caused by a crazed man. Hello everyone, my name is Leo and I'm 18 years old. I live near Clermont-Ferrand. I was only 6 years old and my best friend was 7 at the time of the incident. To give you context, my parents separated when I was very young, 3 years old, so my father moved to a very small village far from the Clermont area, but in Puy-de-Dôme. The village is really tiny, only 200 inhabitants. There isn't even a bakery to tell you. You should know that my father has always lived in these surroundings and therefore knows most of the people of this village. A year after we moved in, a rugby friend of my dad moved into the house next door to us, and he has a daughter who is 1 year older than me. We're gonna call her Anna. As we were the only 2 children in the village, we became best friends very quickly since we see each other every weekend. We're still friends today. Our fathers became best friends too. Thanks to us, they saw each other all the time. So we often celebrated, every Saturday, with other friends of our fathers and their wives. However, there was a friend of my father's whom we're gonna call Pierre. He seemed strange to us, and even more so when he had been drinking. Strange in the sense that he talked a lot about blood, death, and supernatural things. This developed when he was drunk, in addition to the fact that he was violent. The style of fighting, knocking on doors and windows, on tables, etc. Now that the context is set, I will be able to tell you about the traumatic event. It was 2007, a Saturday evening. As usual, we were celebrating with Anna. We would sit in the living room to be away, and we played on the PC/listened to our music, etc. We kept the door from the living room open so that the parents could watch us. Plus the door had a problem, so we could potentially get stuck in the living room without being able to get out. It was quite late. I can't remember the exact time, but I think it was after 12, since everyone was drunk except Anna's mother. We were in the living room watching the TV when Pierre entered the living room. He slams the door. We look at each other and we start to get scared since the door is blocked. He turns off the light. The room is now dark, with the only light being the TV. We do not understand what is happening, and then he takes out a butcher knife that was in his back. He whispered something to us that I don't remember, and then he smiled. It was the most terrifying smile I have ever seen. Then he starts to approach us. Anna and I start screaming in fear and crying. We really thought we were going to die that night. Anna's mother, who was the only sober one, kicked down the door before pushing him against the wall. We ran out of the room and went to my room. I don't remember what happened after that, only to the police who later arrested him. This event really traumatized my childhood and that of Anna's. I don't know what would have happened if her mother hadn't reacted so quickly. P.S. This man also tried to run over my sister with his pickup truck. Today my father has no more news from him. So much for the better. We still talk about it often with my best friend, since it really traumatized us. If you're enjoying this video, consider giving it a like. Now on to the next story. This story, written by Raul9753. You'd never expect chainmail to save someone's life in 2021. This story happened just a few years back when I was visiting an old friend in Cologne, while at the same time taking advantage of him as a free stay for a meeting with my LARP group. For those who don't know what LARP is, it's basically real-life role-playing. Imagine a D&D game, but instead of people sitting around a table with dice, you have people actually dressed up as their characters, actually role-playing in real life. LARPing has been my hobby since I was 14, and after I got a job that paid pretty well, I started to go a bit more all out when it came to stuff for my hobby. One of those things I spent a solid amount of money on was my character's armor, important for this story, the chainmail I wear under my outer armor. After the meeting of my group, I got mostly out of my LARP outfit because I didn't really want to walk through Cologne-Mulheim, which is one of the more dangerous places in the city, as a medieval knight. But since I couldn't fit it all in my back, I kept my chainmail on, as well as my tunic and pants. On my bus ride home, I noticed some guy seemed to have an eye on me, but I was guessing it was because I still looked very out of place. When he got off at the same station as me, I didn't really pay him much attention. I was almost at my friend's place and decided to call him, asking if we should meet and get a doner, which he agreed to before I even ended my question. I arrived at our meeting spot first and waited. Then I noticed that guy from the bus again, who now walked straight towards me. I got closer to the wall to make space, but he didn't pass me. He stopped before me and pulled a knife on me, demanding my bag, wallet, and phone. I was willing to give him my wallet, but tried to explain that the bag only had some armor and foam weapons. But it seems that even just talking was enough to set this guy off, and suddenly, I felt two fast, stinging punches in my stomach. It hurt like hell and I dropped down, and the guy grabbed my bag. Honestly, the next things are not really in my mind. I was barely able to notice anything other than the voice in my head screaming, "You got stabbed!" So the next thing I noticed was my friend shaking me. My bag was open and my stuff all over the place, and he was holding my helmet with blood on it. As he said it, he saw the guy throwing my stuff around after the bag was most likely too heavy and big for him. So my friend, seeing me on the floor, managed to grab the first thing he could, which was a helmet, and bashed the guy with it until he ran away. We later checked my stomach, and even though I had 2 giant deep blue bruises which hurt like hell, I only had small cuts since the chainmail stopped the knife. Until this day, I get sick in the stomach when I think back on that day, and remember that if I had not worn a piece of my LARP clothing that day, I would be dead. Literally killed over a bag full of costumes, 150 pounds in my wallet, and a 10-year-old phone. This world is messed up,